said Levi. I wondered if he was your Levi.
Still have fun with these two. You an outworlder? So you an outworlder? Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here.
What a beautiful day. We are so blessed to live in a beautiful country, a beautiful state, and a beautiful city. And thank you all for being here. Thank you to Mrs. Booth and our band for the music. It was just spectacular, as it always is. And now the VFW will post the colors for our ceremony this morning. And while they're doing that, if all the Boy and Girl Scouts that are out in our audience could step forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we would appreciate that. Gentlemen?
Detail, Kid Hunt. Color there. Order arms. Detail. Present arms. Forward, march. Left, 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 right, left. Left, 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 right, left, 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 right, left. Detail, halt. Left face. Color bearers, post colors. Keep going. Post colors.
And where's our scouts? Sure, you can come up here. You can lead us.
Scout salute or hand over your heart as needed.
Color guard, hand salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, fellas. Pastor Brobston?
If you would pray with me. Gracious God, we gather on this glorious day not as we should, but as in our own brokenness we are able to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for freedom, for us, and for people they never knew. Gracious God, be with all this day who grieve and mourn and remember. May we know your presence. May we know the promise that those men and women marched off to. Be with us this day in all that we do, as we remember, as we never forget, as we march on in the memory of the fallen. We ask this in your most precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Brobston. And now singing our national anthem will be Jacob Schnitke. Jacob is the son of Mark and Melissa Schnitke.
Present arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glad, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave and the home of the brave.
Jacob, that was spectacular. You obviously inherited your father's ability to sing. And now we'll have the placing of the wreaths with pipe music by Matthew Hart, our piper. Placing the memorial wreath is Robert Polshevsky from the VFW Auxiliary Chaplain. And the Vietnam Veterans Association Memorial Wreath will be placed by Tom Kent, VVA Chapter 954 member. Evelyn Maddock from Girl Scout Troop 11436, the daughter of Ben and Regina Maddock, will read to us the poem In Flanders Fields. You may all be seated now.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep through poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Thank you, Evelyn. That was very, very good. And reading the Gettysburg Address this year is Levi Goff. Levi is a senior at Defiance High School. He is the son of Carla J. Goff and the late Chad L. Goff. Levi?
By President Abraham Lincoln, November 19, 1863. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that this nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take the increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation shall bring a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you, Levi. Our speaker today is Tanya Bruner. Tanya is the office manager of the Defiance County Veterans Office. And I'll just say that shortly after I was elected mayor, Tanya was one of the first people to reach out to me and welcome me to the mayor's office. And we spent a lot of time together, and I learned a lot from Tanya that day and in days since. And I just appreciate from time to time her guidance and tutelage. I work with two veterans, and Ryan Mack and Sean O'Donnell and several others in our staff, but when we have a veterans question, Tanya is who we go to. She's a nationally accredited service officer with over 29 years of experience on the job. Tanya is a veteran of the U.S. Navy, having served in a unit dedicated to underwater surveillance to uncover drug smuggling operations. She's married to Addison and is a mother and grandmother. Tanya lives near the village of Evansport in Defiance County and is an avid reader and flower gardener. Tanya?
What a beautiful morning. It was 1918, and there were two Army officers in their Class A uniforms traveling a dirt road in the backcountry of Arkansas, and they were headed for the shack, this small home of a veteran, and they were about to tell his mother he would never come home again. They arrived there at the house. The mother invited them in. They said, "Please sit down at the table. We deliver bad news." And she did. She took time from her task to sit at the table. They said, "Ma'am, your son has died of the Spanish influenza that is running through Army camps." It was 1918 and a terrible pandemic that took as many soldiers from us as bullets did. She listened, and then she got up and she went back to her sink and she started washing her dishes. And the soldiers were shocked. They said, "Ma'am, we have delivered this terrible news to you. Please sit." And she said, "No." And it's a very old-fashioned way of saying it. She said, Do ye now the next thing. She meant, do what needs to be done next. Keep moving. The soldiers were stunned and they sat there a moment, and then they rose and they grabbed the drying towels and they began to dry the dishes. Do ye now the next thing. Over 116,000 military deaths in World War I. In my tenure as an advocate in the Armed Forces or in the Veterans Office, man, I've traveled some journeys with veterans and their families, and I have witnessed the unbelievable everyday courage it takes to keep going, to keep believing, to keep moving on. Even if their bodies are failing and their hearts are breaking, they keep believing, they keep moving. Do ye now the next thing. Ralph Barrier Jr. ran a grocery store in Defiance with his dad, and Ralph was one of the men who hired me for my job. And when the call came for World War II, Ralph was put into the Army Infantry, and he was sent to the European theater. A tough time to be in Europe. Ralph and I were in a meeting, and I was sitting by Ralph, and I said, man, Ralph, I'm feeling kind of tired today. Oh, did he take me to school. He looked at me with a stone cold look, and he said, you do not know what tired is. He talked to me about an incident where the American line of infantry was pushing the German infantry back across the soil of Europe. They did not stop. To keep going, the infantrymen linked their arms together, held their rifles out front, and marched that way for 4 days. They did not eat, they did not sleep, they did not stop, they kept going. Do ye now the next thing. 405,000 American military died in World War II. It was March 16, 1969, in South Vietnam, when the military radar lost an aircraft off of their screen at 161 degrees north, 170 degrees east. That aircraft was never recovered, and the crew on that aircraft was never recovered. And on that aircraft was a Defiance boy named Michael Leo Batt. It would be July 25th, 2005, when his remains were finally returned to the Riverview Cemetery here in his home of Defiance. 36 years that family waited. What a cost they paid. Over 58,000 military deaths in Vietnam. We came into the Gulf War, which led to Afghanistan, Iraq, and a dozen other countries where we fought the war on terrorism. That count is over 7,500 American military deaths, and we are still counting. It still goes on. Do ye now the next thing. You know, sometimes I have moments when I have stinking thinking, where I'm whining and complaining about some circumstance in my life or something that didn't go the way I wanted it to. But then I remember something. I remember a memorial at downtown Defiance on the courthouse yard. I remember the names engraved on that memorial. Killed in action, missing in action, executed POWs, 112 names. They didn't come home. And then all of a sudden, my problems look a whole lot more in perspective. They're not that big a deal. Do ye now the next thing. You know, when I remember the number of veterans lost, I don't forget also the veterans we've lost in accidents. The military is a dangerous profession to be in. I remember, too, those who have died of suicide because their hearts were broken. And I remember the vast number of veterans we are losing to toxic exposures who are paying a dear price many years later for chemicals and things that were used in the war. I don't even know that number to tell you. So when I have a moment where I'm stinking thinking, I straighten my shoulders. I remember who I am. I am an American. And I repeat our family motto, onward, onward. Do what needs to be done to move through the chaos, face the hardship, seize the good moments, and get done what needs to be happening. Take care of your family. Take care of your community. Take care of your country. That is patriotism. That is honoring the sacrifice of these vast numbers of people that we have lost way too early. So on this Memorial Day and every Memorial Day, no matter where you are in life, I want you to just remember them, and I want you to show your patriotism by the love and care you show your brothers and sisters in this country. Do ye now the next thing. Onward.
I invite you to stand as you're able. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you with favor as you go from this place and grant us as a nation peace. You will now hear gunfire. Commander.
And arm.
Thank you for being here. Plenty of people to thank, because this doesn't happen without a lot of work from a lot of people. Thank you to all the program speakers and participants for making things happen today. From the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW Post 3360, the VFW Ladies Auxiliary, the Disabled American Veterans, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and the Vietnam Veterans of America. The Defiance High School Marching Band, of course, led by Kathy Booth, DCTV for taping the program, and for the sound system from John Adkins, Dione Barth for his use of the trailer for the stage, Defiance High School athletes for distributing the programs to you today and giving water to the band members, and the City Parks and Cemetery Division, who battled Mother Nature this year, but for the setup today and for the upkeep of this beautiful cemetery. Thank you for coming. And just a note, on July 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Defiance County Courthouse War Memorial Site, there will be a brief but meaningful ceremony of remembrance for the War Memorial's 25th anniversary. Reading of the names of veterans killed in wars, missing in action, and executed POWs. If you'd like to attend and you think you'll need a seat, you would want to bring your own chair. Thank you all for coming, and we will close with Matthew Hart, our piper, will end the program with his performance of Amazing Grace. Matthew, thank you.